Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics and Swing. And yet again, I brought on a very tiny group of independent comic book creators, but it's mad cool because they're good creators. And without further ado, let me just bring them back. Let me just bring them on, and I have Chad.
What's up? Hey, JD, it's been a bit.
It's been a bit. Please introduce yourself, Chad.
Hey, I'm Chad Perkins. I'm from Rolling Squid Bones Comics, which is a small indie publisher that's going to be chugging along in 2025. I am also the creator of Set the Hook, The Legend of Sparkle Dog, and Blue Lullaby. And that's me.
All right, cool. We got this guy.
Yeah, we just got called Mad Cool, so that's going on my official resume. Like every time I go to a con, I'm applying for a con. JD Calderon, quote unquote, Mad Cool.
Mad cool.
Mad cool.
That's all you need to know.
Why
Mad
should we bring you
cool.
in? I am
Right.
mad cool.
Mad
JD
Cool.
Calderon.
Mad cool. There you go. So, Tom, introduce yourself.
No, you know better than that.
All right.
We don't do that.
Tom's a
anymore.
guy.
Tom is from Big Corn Dog Inc.
He's from Big Pejo Inc.
Yeah, Big Bad Corn Dog Inc.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
Pejo.
we're
And
Corn Dog
Lois
Inc. in the
Lane's
summertime, and we're Big Dog Inc. the rest of the time. Yeah.
And Lois Lane's boyfriend in
There you go. All right, and Wilson made it. What's up, Wilson?
Hello,
Hey, so-
Wilson.
So, Wilson, introduce yourself.
I'm Wilson Ramos Jr. on social media, Ramos Comics. I'm a full-time comic book artist working in the industry for the past 30 years this year, my 30th anniversary, and I mostly known as a letterer, a colorist, digital pre-press guy, and when I have time, and I never do, I self-publish my own comics under the banner Section 8 Comics.
There you go. All right, cool. It's been a while, Wilson. How you been?
I've been well, thank you. Been pretty good. Just got in. I was out with my friends playing D&D and made it just home. And I've ordered my dinner, so eventually you'll see a pair of hands hand me a bagel and a coffee so I can have something to eat.
Gotcha. That's cool. So, did you win?
Coffee sounds so good.
Huh?
Did you win?
Yes, I always win D&D. And the way you win D&D, for you guys don't know, is if you ever make the GM go, ugh,
You won.
so you won D&D that way.
You need to play a game with me. So.
We're almost at the end of this game we've been playing for the last 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time. Usually our campaigns back, because I used to play in high school, but I used to go for like ours used to last about 6 months, but 4 years. Wow.
Yeah, it's just like trying to get everybody's schedule together at the same time. It's almost maybe once a month we meet up.
What's up, Anthony? No, that's cool. I mean, I would have, when I was a DM, I'd have probably murdered everybody before we got anywhere near the end. So, yeah, I'd have probably murdered the entire crew. So,
I killed an entire underground cave of dark elves, so that was fun. It was an accident.
I'm talking about all the player characters. They hated me. I reveled in killing them regularly. So, one year was my birthday, and I murdered all of them. And they were like, "What the f, man? He was really tough today." And I was just like, "Well, it was my birthday. I had to give myself something."
Cold-blooded murder. That's a great gift to yourself.
Yeah, look, it was dice and papers. Everybody was fine.
Sure.
They got to go home and convention. All right, gentlemen. So look, it's a small crew tonight. Jay can't make it, unfortunately. He's not doing well.
Good.
But hopefully he's feeling better. But here it is, man. It's 2024, right? Or 2024 is coming to a close. What did you get done? And what are you doing to lead into 2025? Right? So let's start with Wilson. Wilson hasn't been on for a while.
I feel like I have not got enough done if we're talking about our own personal stuff, like self-publish. Right. As a self-publisher, the only thing I got done was surviving the year. Is basically what I've done. We took a step back on, and by we, Section 8 Comics, we took a step back from doing any big conventions. We only did some local shows that we could either get to by train, travel quickly to. We only maybe set up at 3 shows. We basically spent this year kind of figuring out what's the plan going to be, because we had a whole bunch of plans set up, and between the pandemic happening and between everything else, even the writer's strike actually affected me. Not that I write anything from Hollywood, but as a freelance artist, I do put books together for other creators who got affected by the writer strikes and stuff like that. So I'm mainly concentrating on doing the freelance work that I do that normally pays the bills, lettering and whatnot. So for my own stuff, I didn't really get to do much this year. Other than make plans for next year is basically what we spent the time doing. Now, in the background, we finished Ninja Mouse issue number 2. Cool. Ninja Mouse originally was our 24-hour comic, and it was like the first thing we published. And if people don't know what the 24-hour comic challenge was, so you create a whole book in 24 hours. I sat down in comic book shop, created the story right then and there. So it's kind of I wouldn't say a throwaway character. It was just a project we did, printed it later in color, and then decided, hey, we should do another one. It's been a few years. Why not? And by me, it's Eric Rivera, who's the writer for the Section 8 stuff. I'm one of the artists for it. And between us two, we do a bunch of different titles. And it was like, yeah, it would be cool to do another 24-hour comic, but I didn't want to sit down and do it for 24 hours. It was just, it took a toll the first time. And it's one of those projects like, yeah, maybe every 5 years I could revisit it. But what we did for the second book, we decided to do it in the spirit of 24 hours. So what it was is that I spent an hour on each page on each discipline. So an hour of it was spent penciling it. An hour of it was spent inking it, an hour coloring, and then lettering and stuff like that. And so what we decided to do with that is we recorded the whole process as well. So Eric and I took a trip. We rented a place for a week and basically spent like the day drawing comics all day. And then the evening we just hung out and took it like a working vacation. So we recorded all the steps. We got the book done. The only thing I have to do is do a cover, and then the book would be ready to print. So we already have a couple of books basically waiting to be finished and then to get printed. And then we'll do a Kickstarter for that. So we were working on projects, although we didn't publish any of the projects this year, but they were being worked on. And then a few of them just needs a little bit of tweaks here and there to finish it. And there are some conventions already thought about. And this year, although I'm not going officially as Section 8, but I'll have Section 8 books with me, I'll be going to the San Diego Comic-Con this year.
Cool. Nice.
And haven't been there for, I think, 10, 15 years or so.
Now, I know you do a lot of books professionally. Do you want to mention any real quick, just to maybe pop those guys?
Right. So the books I do professionally, my day job, so to speak, is for Paper Cuts, which is owned by Mad Cave Studios. So I letter books like Loud House, Casa Grande. Those are Nickelodeon projects based on their cartoons. For them, I also do a translate a French book, I believe, that's called Nightmare Brigade. And I work on the Smurfs as well. And that's what I do for Paper Cuts. For Dynamite Entertainment, I'm designing and working on the Transformers 40th anniversary card set. So not only am I like doing the package design and the designs of the cards, mostly the production work to put them together, I'm also doing a set of the sketch cards. And they've also did a special subset of, we had an artist pencil and draw it, and I colored it, and those cards are being signed. So I'll have a set of signed cards within the set. And I'm going to be doing a 9-card kind of like a puzzle set where basically you don't have to look for the 9 cards. You get all 9 as part of their Kickstarter thing, where I'm inking one of the covers that Marvel printed of a certain Transformers character whose name I don't recall at the moment. But it was a kind of a throw-in gig. It was like all the artists that they originally wanted to do is sick, so it's like, okay, so I'm going to ink a bunch of cards for this special subset that's working on it too. So those are the main two companies that I've been doing work for kind of on a regular basis, is Dynamite Entertainment and Paper Cut Books.
All right, cool. Tom, what do you got? What did you accomplish this year? I know you did so little.
I mean, honestly, we did do very little. Just to be honest, I can't really look at the year and be like, look at what we did, because I don't know that we did anything to be particularly jazzed about. We had we kind of had a hot start to the year, and then once you got to the summer, kind of just faded out a little bit. I mean, I know that's not us. That's kind of everybody kind of felt that from the summer down, but everything for me kind of felt like what would be the term, like business as usual, right? Just sort of like going through the motions, like, okay, yeah, this is what we did kind of last year, this is what we did kind of this year, and this is probably what we'll kind of do next year. So for me, I've been kind of trying to look at that and be like, okay, what do I need to do, specifically me, because I have to decide all these things. What do I have to do to sort of like maintain, awareness and maintain interest and maintain all of this stuff like throughout the whole year? Because we always kind of have this nice start, and then it just kind of dissipates in the summer, and we roll into the holidays and all that. So I've been trying to figure some of that out, and next year is going to be our 15-year anniversary. So there may be a little bit of extra oomph just from that alone. We've had interest from conventions as far as wanting to like invite us to like celebrate the 15-year anniversary, which is cool. We're definitely looking at doing some more cons next year, going back to some places that we haven't been in a long time. Again, just to kind of raise that awareness level. But the thing is, for me, is like it goes back to like what I just talked about. It's business as usual. It's just like I did so many conventions when we started this that I burned myself out on it to where I don't mind doing cons at all. But if there's like just tons of travel and it becomes a nightmare, I just don't want to do it. So I have to get my head sort of straight and be like, look, you may not want to do some of this stuff, but it has value to do it. And I have to be able to sort of retrain my head to see the value of going to Florida or going to Texas or going to San Diego Comic-Con, those kinds of places. And I've been, and within that context, I've been looking at the product that we do and being like, well, how do I level up sort of like the experience at a con? Like, we all go there, we have our tables, we got some racks. Again, business as usual. Here's the stuff. Come and see what it is. But is there a way to present things in a different way? Something that somehow that either it's not being done on the floor, or it's at least not something that we've done before. Because again, even going to Comic Cons, like everything's the same. It's just, here's our table, here's our racks, here's our banners, like here's our books, like it's just all the same. And this is a bad position for me to be in, is this sameness of it all, because it drains the creativity and the energy out of my head. So I've talked about this before, where I've said, like, I'm not lazy about things, but I exist in a comfort level that is dangerous, because it's working, right? Like you said, it's working. Yay, Tom. It's like, yeah, it's working. It's working. I can't say it's not working, but there's things that I can do to step out of that comfort level and push forward. And I know that. And so I've been thinking about some things in that regard. How can I do this? How can I partner with some of these cons that bring me in to do something more unique? And on and on and on and on. So this is kind of where I'm at. It's we had another good year again. Overall, it was a good year, but I know that there's more to it. And part of the more also is simply, I need help. I need people that have experience in the marketing side of things, the sales side of things, as far as like, how does all these fucking selling places work? And there's Etsy and there's Mercari and there's Gumroad, and this is like there's fucking 8,000 places that do all this, but I'm one person, right? Chad, I don't hire people that do MMA. Sorry.
I will threaten people for you to buy your
okay, that's good. See, now we're talking about outside the box, right? It's usually like, hey, do you want to come see some comics? I want to see Chad be like, get your ass over here and look at the comics. Like I like that vibe. That's a good one.
Can you have like a gun up behind them and be like, just keep walking. Just keep walking. Don't look at anybody. Get up to the table. Do you want to look at these comics?
That's right.
Look at
this
them now.
is where you want to be, right?
This
here,
is right now.
No, but I mean, if you're serious, I mean, we can talk about that, Chad. It's just like some of it I know, and a lot of it I do know, but I just don't have the time to do it all. And so it again, that just sort of wears on me. It's like I just realized not long ago that I've got books that I've had for months that are not on our web store, that are not on eBay, that are, I've been taking them to cons and stuff, but like they've just been in the warehouse, and I'm like, Jesus, this stuff never even got put on the website. It's all the Kickstarter backers have their stuff, but whatever's left over is just like in boxes. And so I've been doing that of late, like putting stuff up on the web store, and lo and behold, I made fucking sales. Like amazing, right? You put new things on the website and it sells. So it's just that it's like, I have to really honestly, and I've talked about this a long time. COVID kind of fucked things up because, there's no way I could really hire people during COVID and so on. And then we got a few years away from it. And anyway, I got to build a team to help me streamline and expand some of this stuff. In addition to just my thought processes of like, how do I handle cons? What does a con need to look like? How do I display this stuff better? Is there a better way to do product? Like I was thinking about doing. Now, here's an interesting thing. We'll come back to this part, but I've had a lot of people on. I've been on shows where people are like, "Oh, you got to do like different sizes. You got to go big. You got to go small. You got to do all these book sizes." And I'm like, horseshit. Nothing you're telling me makes any sense. And anybody that there is a small fraction of people that have been like, "Oh, these little books are like really great," and I'm like, I see no proof of this. I see no proof of sales to this happening. But I did run into a comic book store who was talking about the opposite, the slightly bigger books, like the distillery books. And he had the same reaction that I did about it. I was like, this seems kind of cool. Like it's a bigger book. It's a different kind of format and size and shape. Like it's kind of cool. And he was like, yeah, it really is, but nobody's buying these books. And I was like, oh, and he was like, well, what's the problem? Is it the price point? Is it the size? Is it whatever? And he was like, yeah, it's the size. The size, it requires different boxes. It requires different bags and boards. The price point is a little higher because of what it is. And he was like, they did it right in the context of, like getting good creators on it, right? They have huge names on distillery books, like really good creators. But in his specific case, he is not seeing any sort of wild rush to the product. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you talking about Fun for All and Ipsy?
No.
Okay, because I was
distillery, DSTLRY.
No. I know. I meant the comic shop that you were at.
Oh, I don't remember what it was called.
Because Fun for All has. I was actually just there, and they have distillery, like the distillery comics, and I agree with you. They are. I can definitely tell they are not selling because they are very awkward to
yeah, it's just, and it's weird. And so for me, because I've got a couple of distillery books because I thought they were kind of cool. And I'm like, all right, let me try some of these out. And I'm reading them and I'm kind of enjoying the format. Like I'm like this. And now granted, I'm 53. The bigger format works good for me because my eyeballs, they're 53-year-old eyeballs. So this works for me. But in my head, I kept thinking like, this is just a unique thing. And I know that sometimes we go big in the context of like trade paperbacks and stuff like the Absolute hardcovers and things like. So I know people like those bigger things, but that's a different type of book than Distillery, because those are trade paperbacks, collected editions, special fancy things for the bookshelf, versus making like a comic book thing. And so I've always kind of wondered, like, what is going on with these books, because my local store carries them, but I don't see them flying off the shelf either. He's not exactly like huge on them. He's got a handful of them sitting around, but yeah, it's just, and so that was one of the things that I was thinking of, was like, well, maybe this particular book that I have would work in this format, but not, again, here's the other side of this though, is it's not necessarily being made for the comic book audience, right? Because we know that there are people, particularly that come to cons, that aren't there for comic books. But if you can present them something that gives a visual sense that it isn't just another comic book, right? If it's bigger, either in page count or in size, if you can market it in such a way that it is that it can vibe with an audience in a different way than I'm selling comics. I mean, I think that's kind of where we have to go, right? And in this particular case, it's like a horror book that I'm trying to do. And so I'm thinking, like, I can take this to the horror people, right? And market this differently than I would do for the comic book reader. And maybe it opens the doors to a different type of audience. So again, that's just some of the stuff that I'm kind of trying to rationalize in my head. Heavy Metal is out there right now on Kickstarter, at $500,000. Right, but again, that's a name brand. It's a name brand IP. You know, all that kind of stuff.
They've been around for a while,
so right? And they've always been a magazine, so there's no real difference in that regard. Plus, the Distillery is not a magazine, right? Because there are magazine boxes. They're still like a weird size, and Distillery does make their own boxes that fit perfectly. But again, you're asking them people to buy something unique for that type of thing. Do they have bags and boards that'll fit them? They do, but again, it's a different size. You have to go find this alternative size. So anytime you do something alternative, I feel like the comic book market itself is going to go, but that doesn't mean that you can't take that somewhere else and make it work somewhere else. And that's kind of where my head is going, is where else can I go? How else can I market things? Not necessarily what I have right now specifically, but create something that would, sort of thrive in an alternative audience. And then, maybe you get a little trickle down to the stuff that you already do. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, Larry makes a couple. I mean, I don't know. I've tried different sizes. And would you ever be interested in, or anybody here would be interested in trying different sizes? Because I've done like digest size, 8.5 by 5.5, and those sell well at conventions. I've found. But and you're talking about doing that with Oswald? I've done it with Tall Tales. I've done it with Oswald as well. Okay, so in your situation, it actually makes sense because because the smaller books are made for kids primarily. Yeah. That's the whole point. Is here's a kids thing, and Oswald and Tall Tales stuff, that's a kid IP. That's going to make sense to me 100%. But just taking something that's like, I know that they do this with Invincible. They're like, hey, Invincible, and it's small now. I'm like, no one cares.
Yeah, DC's doing that now.
Yeah, well, and DC is doing stuff. It's actually new content too, but they are aiming it at a younger audience. That's again, that's their purpose. They're like taking stuff and make it younger, but they also just do reprints of like, well, here's the thing, and it's small, and I'm like, who cares? Why do we care about that? I mean, you got to remember. I mean, we're dealing with the direct market, but they're dealing with a much larger market. This is what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying. Is some of this stuff has to work in alternative. Market areas. Yeah.
And it's also too, it's because it's DC. If it's smaller, people will buy it because it's DC.
Sure, they'll still buy it because it's Batman. They'll still buy it because it's
exactly. Now, granted, to Larry's point though, if I see proof of the change in size, would I change the size of my books if I saw proof in sales? Sure. I mean, but along with that too, like I've thought about doing, like, when Set the Hook is done as like a trade paperback, doing a smaller format one. I have considered that. Because it's just like, it's a pocket size. You can throw it in a bag. It's a manga size, and manga is very popular, and I like manga. So it's I
think the trick is figuring out who the audience is, number one, when you're starting with something, and who the audience could potentially be
Right.
down the line, right? So like with me, for Critter, for example, I know who the audience for this is, but if I were to be like, well, here's a small Critter, that might work towards a younger audience because of what it is. But there's no reason for me to make Penny for Your Soul a small digest size thing. Nobody would care because the audience for it would not translate backwards, and there is no small book audience for something like Penny for Your Soul.
Sure. Unless you're going to like an anime convention, because those people are, or like anime conventions, they are attracted to the manga sized book because that's what they're familiar with. So if you took it to there, people might be like, oh, hey. And they don't really care. Like it's just, oh, well, it's not manga. Well, it's still the small format and people are more likely to buy it. And
that's exactly my thought process would be like, well, this isn't manga. It's not black and white. It's not.
Right.
It is a thing that they understand, but when they open it, it's not.
Yeah.
So, I think again, but if I was specific and I'd be like, I'm going to take Critter to an anime con, 100%. That makes sense to me. It's a cat girl thing. That makes sense to me. So I think that's the whole point is like, start to look at your things and where they might thrive in alternative environments.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've done horror cons, like you do that fishing book, like you should go to fishing conventions. I know they do fishing conventions and that kind of stuff.
I've been to one this year, actually.
Yeah. You need to take that there.
Yes.
And I know a guy who bought a house because he made what the hell was it? It was like a Gaelic Irish thing. And he took it to Renaissance fairs and they just gobbled it up. They were just like, give me everything. And he was like, yeah, I bought a house because I made that book. And he told me I didn't sell it anywhere else. Well, he tried to, but it didn't sell. But when I took it to Renaissance fairs, he couldn't bring enough books. It was just to sell it every time. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm kind of like, what can we do with all of these things? Like I have an Oz book, right? And I go to Oz conventions and we do very well at the Oz shows.
There's an Oz convention. Oh yeah. You did that one this year. Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, there's a few of them. So I think that all of us should kind of be looking at what we do and seeing like, okay, yes, we want to exist in the comic book market, certainly, obviously, but where else could it go where you could potentially sell enough to buy a house because you're in the right pool of people that would be like, this is exactly what I'm here for at this event. And no one else here has a comic book about Hell's Aquarium or fishing or anything. So you have the unique product at that point. Everyone else has their fishing lures and their lines and their vests and like, hey, this is what we do. We fish. And you're like, yeah, well, I've got a comic book.
I got a fucking book.
Yeah.
Actually, a guy that I know that I ran into when I was at Motor City Nightmares, because I do the horror convention here at the Suburban in Novi. He sells hot sauces and they're horror themed hot sauces. And he goes to tattoo conventions and metal festivals. And he does really well because bands are like, oh man, that's really cool. I'm going to take this on the road. Could you make a hot sauce for us? Like, just like, and it's like marketing stuff. And it's really fun. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
It's funny that you bring up the fishing convention because I'm right there with you next year. Like I'm waiting for the vendor thing to pop up.
Larry says, I think you want to sell manga-sized books. It needs to be mangas, and you need manga Critter, and I need manga Niobe. It needs to look like anime, and it needs to be in black and white. What else? I mean, if you're going to do it, go all out, get them an image manga Critter with big old anime as I know, cute.
Yeah, but then you're making a whole new product, and that costs more money versus just reprinting stuff.
Right. I don't disagree with him.
No, I don't either. But it's a different world.
I will definitely say that it's not necessarily necessary. You know what I mean? Because also it depends on what you're selling.
I agree.
Obviously translates over quite easily.
Right. I think as well as like it doesn't actually need like the manga art style. But I do agree with the black and white, but also manga does get color too. So I mean, Dragon Ball has the entire color thing going on.
Sure, and we sell to manga people all the time at cons. Like I can see them when they walk up to the booth. I know exactly what they're looking at. I'm like, you're a manga person. This is your thing. You know what this is before you even know what this is. So that's why we did that as a toy. That was what we did as our first toy because I knew that we'd be able to get a crossover audience of people buying it. And the fact that it worked in that capacity That tells me that Critter has a crossover audience that I could start to dip into.
With Set the Hook #1, I've been told that they love that anime manga-y art style that Tim Spavero does. So it does make me think, should I try an anime convention? Like, just to test the waters? I don't think it would kill me. And plus, I like anime, so it's not like I'm gonna be bored there.
I've done okay on anime conventions. I have the uniqueness portion of the fact that I used to letter manga. So I would sometimes bring those books with me. It's like, I work for Media Blasters. I work for Central Park Media, all these things, where it's like I still have a lot of those manga books. And it's like, so I have those there. And then I do have crossing different types of book styles. So Team Kaiju, which is superheroes, but they're superheroes that fight monsters, that does okay there. And one of the things that I have noticed that worked, because we've tried different conventions also, because it's kind of cool to go to like a book show that is like, but we're the only ones that have comics. So we do get a bit of a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried craft fairs. Nobody cares.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Craft fairs, not a single person wanted to look at the books. Craft fairs treat comic books as if we were at like a flea market. And they don't want original price. They go, do you have a dollar bin or do you have a quarter bin of books? So craft fairs seems to have that, at the ones that we've done, seems to have that mentality of, if you got comics, you're reselling your old comics. You're not selling something. It's like, no, these are all brand new products. These are all #1 issues. That's something new that's, been printed the last few years, kind of a thing. So we've been trying things like that. One of the best shows we ever did was not even a comic convention. We sat outside a movie theater for Spider-Man 2. The theater wanted to make a whole event, and they had invited one of the comic book shops that we were connected with. Do you have artists or anyone to come in? So we came in with our books. I came in with my sketch cards and stuff like that. When people were walking into the theater and they looked at the table, they're like, "Oh, what is this? Are you giving away anything?" It's like, "No, we're not giving away. These are things we're selling." And they would go in, they would watch the movie, they would come out, and they had this high of being in the movie, just watching Spider-Man. Now they wanted whatever you wanted on the table that was related, and we were able to spin the whole thing. It's like, hey, these are all #1 issues. If you had the chance to buy Spider-Man #1, would you take it? Here are our books.
That's
They're
a good
all
selling.
#1. And
Wilson pulls out the snake oil.
Yeah. You should change your name to Snake Oil Comics.
That's the whole thing. Hey, you want a sketch card of Spider-Man that I drew? And I used to work at Marvel, and I worked on Spider-Man. I don't own Spider-Man. I get none of that money, but hey, here's the first issue of this character. Your chance to get it. And we sold so well. But that, that's one of those little fluke things where it's like, wow, we did so good at that one table. It was better than the con that year. So it's like the concept of going and being going to a place where you're the only ones with comics can work sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I've done horror shows in multiple locations, and I just bring my horror stuff. I don't even find Critter. It's just like I just bring the horror stuff, and they gobble it up. They're like, "Yo, why isn't this a movie?"
So I'm doing two. I'm doing two horror conventions next year. Speaking of what I've been doing for the next year, is I'm doing 2 horror conventions, and I actually do really pretty well at Motor City Nightmares, and I'm doing the Nightmare Weekend in Ohio. And that seems to be really working for me because people are like, "Oh, it's about demon fish." Yeah, here you go. Here's the first issue. Oh, this is about a killer fursuit. Yeah, here's the first issue. And people just get really excited for it. So I don't think, to Larry's point, all other cons don't care. It depends on where you're going, I think.
True, yeah.
I think it really depends. Like, if you're going to, like, I don't know, a Teletubbies convention and you're selling Penny for Your Soul, like you're not gonna have a great time, you know.
Yeah, you got to go to a place that it's going to matter to where they
Right
are.
now,
Yeah.
granted,
Yeah,
though,
for
if
sure.
you got into one of those shows with Penny for Your Soul, I'd be very impressed. So,
I want to see Tom at churches selling a penny for your
Yeah,
soul.
I'll set up a table outside of church when they come out. Like, hey, let me tell
I'll
you
join
about how
you.
to. This is how you get into heaven, right here. This is the
Right here.
truth.
This
Yep.
is the
Sure.
Listen, do you want to know about the 4 fish of the apocalypse? Let me
This is
tell
the
you.
sequel to the greatest story ever told, right here.
Wait, the Wheel of Time?
No,
God,
no,
God, no. It'd be
no.
Dune before that, please.
Ah,
But Chad, answer the question. What
I don't
What
fucking
did
know
you,
what I don't
what-
know. I'm more
what'd you do in 2024 that what did you accomplish?
fucking nothing. No, that's not true. So I launched to Set the Hook #1 over the summer, and that got up to all the backers, and that was pretty. Well, I guess I'm kind of in the lull of everybody struggling right now because the
Mhm.
Kickstarter didn't do as well as I thought it would. So it's still funded, and now it was successful, and now I'm prepping for issue 2 to launch in February. But this entire year has been, to Ramos's point. Your first name's Wilson, right?
My first name is Wilson. Yes.
Great, thank you. I was just gonna say Ramos, but Wilson's point is it was kind of just like building my brand and just like figuring stuff out and learning. With Rolling Squid Bones, I figured out when I was at Motor City Nightmares. I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna be my own little indie publisher. I'm just gonna do everything myself. I'm not gonna worry about the big publishers because everybody wants to get into those guys, and I've kind of learned that that's really a huge headache. Like just submitting everything, and then they want to make changes, and they want to look at everything. And I'm like, just I want to talk about fish and tits and everything. You know, that's not what the book's about. But I want to talk about a revenge book about fish. That's what I want to tell my story on. But so I picked up 2 creators with me. One will be in March, which I will be announcing at the end of the year on who's been chosen, and then their Kickstarter is going to be launching in March. So I'm keeping my brand very tiny. So it's kind of just me figuring out how to be a little independent publisher. And I've been looking at talking to one guy about distribution, and we'll see how that's going to go. So it pretty much for me, it's just been brand building. I did what did I only did one convention this year, which was Motor City Nightmares. And that one I definitely recommend if you have horror books. And Tom, I think you would do really well with that convention.
Yeah, I've done it before.
Have you?
Yeah.
We'll do it again so we can hang out. Go do it next year. They're great.
It depends on the dates. Do we know the dates? Because it's not on the website yet.
No, they're not, but I have them and I will get those to you.
Yeah, tell me what it is. Because unfortunately, they usually do it around San Diego time, and I'm going to San Diego this year because Antarctic Press is like, come out and be part of the booth, and I'm like, I'm going.
Is it July?
It's July, yeah.
It is July. Is it July like 27th or something? Around that time? Yeah.
24th to the 27th is this year's Comic-Con.
Yeah. Okay, so it falls right into that. But if it's not, next time I'll let you know.
But then they sometimes do a smaller one, Motor City Legacy, but they didn't do it last year.
No, but I know they're talking about doing it next year.
Okay.
And then I'm also doing another horror convention called Nightmare Weekend in Cleveland or Columbus, one of those Ohio places that I don't care about remembering. I'm just going to show up there. So I'm going to be doing that, and then Really Cool Con in Flint. Again, I was able to get into that one. I also got Hall of Heroes messaged me and said, here's the invoice for the table. But I'm like, I think I just want to work on my website and figure things out and maybe keep my cons thing growing because I don't want to burn myself out legitimately. So, and then I'm also working on issue 2 of Set the Hook #2. I'm sorry, the Kickstarter is launching soon. So I'm excited about that. So, yeah, but that's pretty much me. It's just been like me learning and building myself. So I hit with COVID and some other personal stuff that I went through. It's been very kind of a struggle. So I've just been kind of building myself from the ground up. But I have Tom that I just leech things off of. So it's great.
Yeah.
I've been doing MMA.
Nightmare Weekend is Cleveland, and it's at the end of August.
Yes. Yep, and
that might work for me. I have to look into that.
They are doing applications right now. So and I know that's GalaxyCon's sister convention. So I also want to do Astronomicon, which is in Redford, but I haven't gotten thing. That's another horror con. It's like a horror comic book convention.
So you're looking
I'm
next year?
That's usually in April.
Is it?
Yeah, it's usually in April.
Okay.
But I don't know what it is this year. That's been one of those that's always been on my watch list, but I've never decided to pull the trigger.
I feel like I always miss them. I feel like they don't do a lot of marketing for it, which is weird because they had Spencer Chambers from Ice Nine Kills as one point. It's just like a big horror guy.
Are you trying to get into Motor City for next year?
Yes. Yeah, I am.
Has it gotten hard to get into that show?
Somewhat. It's a vetting system now. We barely got in last year, and we were on the wait list.
Who's running it? It's not.
No, it's owned. No. It's owned by somebody. Somebody. It was like a family, and then somebody bought it. And now it's a different group of people. And
right. Then it usually tends to suck after that.
Yeah.
It's not a bad con. It was our first year doing it last year, and we did okay, but we were in like a really weird place. But it was like wait list, so they were like, "This is all we have. You can take these, or you cannot take them." So I said, "Fine, we'll try it."
I'm gonna try. I know I've gotten in there before, but I had to cancel. But I feel like it's just become a celebrity con.
See, that was my thought process too. Whatever they did last year, because they changed the entire layout.
Yeah.
Whatever they did last year, Artist Alley was packed all the time. So they did something to change the flow of whatever's going on. So they still had a bunch of their celebrity people, but Artist Alley was packed, and we were close to Artist Alley. We weren't like facing it or anything, but we were like a row over or whatever. I was there with CB Zane. We had just 2 tables, and we did pretty well considering we'd never done the show before, and we were in like a weird location. So I'm kind of hoping that. And incidentally, they already sent me the pre-sign up for existing whatever to come back. So if you want to do it, you should be watching for the application like really soon, because I'm sure it'll probably pop open like in January. For new people. So,
Well, Larry posted something that's interesting. I've heard of what is it? Lady Death leaving Kickstarter and them, starting him. What is it? Polito starting his own site or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And what's funny is, I just heard it all third hand. I'm not interested. I don't care what the guy does. I'm not interested in any of his books. I don't like his books. I'm like, just not interested, right? So, but it is interesting that he is big enough that he can start his own platform, right? So, yeah.
Well, we'll see what the result is.
Right.
But, that's got to come first. But all he did was he saw what Eric July was doing. Right. And he was like, well, we can do that too.
Right.
Maybe he can, maybe he can't. But
is he,
as far as what happens to Kickstarter, it's irrelevant, because all those people that buy Lady Death books, they're not sitting on Kickstarter in that vacuum looking for something else to buy. They're just going to go over to his site and buy his shit. So we're still going to be just looking at the same amount of people, same group of people that are looking for whatever it is that we do.
Is he trying to do something? Is he trying? Because I heard about that. Is he trying to do something like Zoop?
No, he literally created his own site.
Yeah, for him though.
For him.
Oh.
He built his own.
Oh, that's the Eric July thing,
pre-launch sell Kickstarter thing. Yeah, right. which is what Eric July did, and Eric July has been making like $1 million every time he launches something.
Well,
so
anyway.
Yeah.
So I think, although I do think it is a game changer just for like the Kickstarter crowd, it could be a gain for us. But at the same exact time, it's like Lady Death is its own very niche.
That's correct. Let me tell you why it doesn't matter to you, Chad. Because nobody that's buying Lady Death is buying Squid Bones.
Right. That's true. That is fair.
A minuscule percentage of people that buy Lady Death buy Big Dog Ink books, right? And just because he leaves doesn't mean that that 2,000 people that he pretty much always gets, doesn't mean that those 2,000 people are now sitting in a vacuum going, well, what do I do now? Right. They're just over there buying his books. And if they still want my books, they know where I am. They just come and get my books. It's not like when Brian Pulido launches a campaign on, like he goes, hey, June, we launched a campaign. It's not like Kickstarter shuts down because he's there and nobody can make any money while he's there. That's not the case.
Keanu Reeves did that. He shut down.
Well, that's blowing up the site. But that's not taking money away from anybody else. It's not like there's now a pool of money sitting in Kickstarter waiting for somebody to come take it. That's what I mean. That money is going to follow him, and that's fine. Yep. And you know, if anything, it's actually a detriment because now we have those people are not going to be on Kickstarter as much
to see the other campaigns. Right.
To see the other
campaigns.
Although
there are going to be that small pool who are going to come back to Kickstarter to look for stuff.
Sure,
I mean, but that's you
and
can't
that's what
really
I'm saying.
Gauge that type of thing. Like we can't.
That's the but see, to me that's the irrelevance of it, right? It's the total irrelevance of it. Because I've seen campaigns where Polito's live, Dan Mendoza's live, I'm live, Tucci's live. We're all live at the same time. None of us are missing a beat because we all have our own fan bases. And certainly there could be a little bit of crossover between all of that for sure. But no one is going to be, like I said, it's just him moving to another place. If he stopped making comics, then that money would be free to go somewhere else. Right. But if he's just moving to another location, all he's doing is taking his people with him.
Yeah,
that's all it is.
Although I do agree that there does need to be a new king of comics. And Larry, hey, if you want to be the new king of comics, I'm all in.
There's already been people. Yeah, there's already been people that have done more than he has on Kickstarter. I mean, Neil Gaiman's done more. The Keanu Reeves thing has done more. There was something on just not long ago. I don't remember what. Oh, even the
what
heavy metal.
Heavy metal,
did more than what he did. So but again, those are all IP. Those are all things with IP that drag names into it and so on. So then, again, it's you can't look at it as he's gone, so all that money is available. No, all the money is just over on his own site. So the money is still being spent. It's not that there's now a pool of money for us to dive into.
Mm-hmm. Once I want to see get some weirdo book out of one of these alternative websites. And these campaigns will pull out 150,000, bucks out of nowhere, and you're just like, who are these people? And they just huge on
they're guys like Eric July who have these online followings, and they're like, well, I'm going to make a thing, and all of his people come over and buy the thing. That's I mean, that's a no-brainer right there. Happens all the time.
True.
So,
Lady Death is just also a very popular IP.
Sure.
Like,
of course.
As somebody,
and
who
that's
has
why I'm
never
saying
read
all those.
A
That's why everybody's just going to follow him over there. They're going to spend their money over there. It would take the brand not existing to free up the money that theoretically we can now get. Oh, Lady Death is gone. There's money. No, it's all over at another site. It doesn't matter.
Lady Death is gone now. Great, more money, man. If the government worked like that,
we can only pray. All right. So look, to answer the question real quick, I think I did 9 Kickstarters. I don't know.
Did you do 9?
You're a fucking god. You get it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did 7 for Oswald and 2. I did Magi's Grace number 2, which is running now. Dreamweaver's number 1, and possibly Magi's Grace number 1, the second go around on it. I think I did at the beginning of this year. So it might be 10. Yeah, it might be 10, and then Daphne ran Tall Tales, which I was part of those. It was like 2 of those or 3 of those. I don't know. It's a lot.
Magi's Grace is a 3-issue series, isn't it? Or is it just a 2?
4 issue. 4 issues. We have a 4-issue limited series. The second issue is on Kickstarter now, so go check it out. That's a little crazy. And then, next year I just want to do more.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We have 8 things planned next year, like as for Shores, and then we've already got 2 sort of mini drop-in campaigns. So we're technically at 10 campaigns next year already.
Right.
But like I said, they're going to be short. Like one's a 24-hour thing, one's going to be like a 3-day thing. So it's not like we're doing like long, campaigns here. But no, I mean it can be done. I mean, like we talked about, be creative on how you do it. Don't just come in with like, well, I'm going to start a campaign, I'm going to do it for 3 weeks, and I'm going to and then I'm going to do another one, and I'm going to do it for 3 weeks.
Shit, that's what I'm doing.
Like you got to just like shake shit up and do things in a way that will kind of catch some attention, catch a little FOMO, if you will.
Stop messing up my system.
Yeah, I press the launch button. I don't care what's done or what's added into it. I copy and paste stuff from my previous Kickstarter. I paste it in there. I press launch and hope nobody reads it. They just buy the book. That's what I do.
That's it. Buy the book.
I have 2 Kickstarters that aren't mine launching under RSP, and then I have 1, maybe 2 that are particularly me. And I'm also working on a new Set the Hook series as well. So that series is going to be my bread and butter. I've already determined.
Set the Hook Part 2?
Yes, it is, but it does not follow Otis. So it follows Ginger. So my raging lunatic girl. So the axolotl. It's Set the Hook the Axolotl is what I have it called. I already announced it on my Substack and everything too, but I've already Wells Thompson is doing all the he's helping me with the outlines and like doing everything. So it's pretty cool. I'm going really hard on that one. So that one's scheduled for 5 issues. Like
direct sequel or just like sort of side spin-off or like how's the story?
It's a direct sequel. It's set like 6 months to a year. I have Bark in the Water, which is going to be the bridge between the two. So there's like this little grace period of this one shot about the Chihuahua and the salmon suit, which leads into the axolotl, but you don't actually need to read that. It's just more of like a fun thing that I wanted to do. So
Chad, that's a lot of drugs, man.
It is a lot of drugs. Trust me. Listen, guys, I need everybody to fund my Kickstarter to help my drug habit. So also I won a trophy for Set the Hook #1 funded on Kickstarter 2024. No, one of my friends got this for me. It's like a joke, like as a fun, just like congratulations gift. So, cool. Yeah.
All right, so gentlemen, let's change it up a little bit. I got a totally different question, totally different topic. All right, so who in comics gave you the most inspiration this year? Like, who inspired you this year? Right? I know it's been a tough year, but who? It could be anything. Comic related, it could be artist, writer, inker, colorist, like any one of the companies. What do you think inspired you this year? All right, Chad, we'll
Damn it, don't. I'm making the face where I gotta think about it for a second.
Chad's like in the back of school, like
teacher,
I don't know. Don't call on me.
Yeah, he's trying to looking over at the other guy's paper. Is like, oh,
hey, Wilson.
I mean, I'll go because I have answers.
All right, good.
Sure, go ahead.
There's a couple of things that happened this year. One, and this is something that I've kind of been a part of anyway. But specifically, I bought the Gunslinger Spawn trade paperbacks.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really care about the story or anything, even though McFarlane was writing it. What? Yeah, Brett Booth. Yeah, that's why I bought it. I was like, you know what? I haven't seen Brett Booth in a long time. I know I've seen him on Facebook, and so I know what he's doing. But I'm like, let me see these books, and so I bought them on purpose because I was like, let me see this Brett Booth stuff. And I was watching this stuff. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like this is top level stuff. Now I don't know how much of it is McFarlane scripting, like I want this, or how much it's Booth interpreting it. But regardless, the result is really like just a wild, top notch. Like Jesus Christ, I have to study this to level myself up with my panel 1, panel 2. This is turn it this long rectangle horizontal.
Piece.
Huh?
Nothing. Like you found a study piece.
It's a study piece, yeah, 100%. And so that was one of those things that happened. And then the other was as I was searching for sort of a way to create this new horror book, again in sort of a different way, right? I stumbled across, we talked about this last night, this documentary called American Grindhouse, which talked about the old 60s, 70s grindhouse theaters, all the exploitation films, and all that kind of crap from back in the day. And so as I was watching that immediately, like I connected the dots immediately. I was like, boom, this is what this is. This is where this thing needs to go. And so I started getting deep into the grindhouse sort of. It's not really a genre because grindhouses are just the theaters that play this trash, but the trash genre of all of this stuff is
it's a great genre title.
It's the trash genre, yeah, because that's what mostly it is. And then from there, that took me to some Quentin Tarantino stuff, who is a guy that I don't really like a lot of what he does, but the one thing that I really do like is the dialogue that he does, regardless of the film, if I like it or not. I like the dialogue that exists within it. So between the sort of the visual representations of like these grindhouse films and like the old like Wes Craven made this Last House on the Left stuff, and just crazy crap from back then, and then blending that sort of with the modern Tarantino method of grindhouse stuff. That's where I kind of have been aiming this new book to be, like this amalgamation of sort of the past and the present, to make this type of book that I hope will then sort of be a little different from the stuff that I do normally. I kind of purposely want to like just take the ropes off and be like, just go, man, just fucking go with it. There's no limitations on this thing. Just let it breathe however it wants to breathe. And let's see sort of what happens. So then with that, and then with like the Brett Booth visual stuff, Todd McFarlane's influence, of course, which has always been an influence on me. That's the stuff that really kind of hit me this year.
All right, cool. Wilson.
This is a hard question to answer. What inspired me this year? And I this is weird to say, but there have been some books out there that I've seen, and I don't discourage what people are doing. Some stuff has been amazing in what they put out. But at the same time, there's been a few things that it's like, why am I sitting on my own stuff when I could be doing this? And I'm overanalyzing some of the projects, when it's like where I can see a book that's like similar, or at least, this book exists. And if this book exists, why shouldn't my book exist? And it's not to say that the art is bad or anything like that. It's like, it's different. It's something completely different. But it's like, you know what? This book wasn't that bad. It was a good read. The artwork is rough. But that's the style this person does. And it's wild to see that and go, wait, not to say that I'm any better, but it's like, if this book exists, there should be no reason why I'm sitting on projects that I have not produced yet, that are already done.
Right.
So there have been plenty of projects where it's like, I should have put this out already. Stuff like that. Other than that, the only place where I also get inspired is going to comic conventions in general, because there is something to be said by going to a convention that you're not displaying at. And actually seeing what's out there and seeing what people are doing. That's what was New York Comic Con for me this year. I did not have to go to the con because I wasn't displaying at the con. It was more of some people say, hey, are you going? I could get you a ticket if you want to go and just hang out. And it's been a while since I hanged out at a con and didn't have a true purpose other than to be a fan. And that was actually pretty cool. It was weird because, one, you get tired real quickly. And it's like, I need a booth to go to, at least to put my stuff down.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
You know, there's that. And then it's like, all right, let me go to a panel. You know, the only panels I ever went to are the panels that I was on.
Mm.
But it was actually kind of cool to go to a panel and sit there and kind of get ideas what people are doing and what they're putting together and stuff like that. And it was cool to actually stop by everybody's booth that I know, to at least be there and then, you know, pick up their books. Because sometimes, again, I know my friends are at the con, but I don't really get enough time to actually go looking at stuff and seeing what they have. And so you get ideas like that as well. And with the crowd of people and talking to everybody and what they're doing, it is a lot of fun. It is, you know, I always do get some kind of work at every con I go to, just about. So, you know, there's plenty of publishers that I've worked for already, and then be able to actually have that FaceTime with them, talking to them, talking about stuff, having ideas. I always take every job offered to me at a con, because I know they're not going to all show up that same time or the same year.
Mm.
And sometimes people are very excited to be at a con that we all talk about, hey, let's do a project together. Let's do something together. And it usually never leaves the floor. But I usually will say, yeah, let's do something. Let's go ahead. You know, so I've had plenty of crossover events planned. Whether any of them happens, I don't know.
I actually admire that by saying yes to it, because it actually challenges me when somebody asks, like, hey, we should do this together. I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I wait. Because they asked me and I'm not going to pull the trigger.
Mm.
Right. So there's been plenty of times where, you know, I've talked to people like, let's do crossovers, let's do this, let's do that. So now I'm at the point where I say yes. You know,
Right.
especially with people that I've worked with before, I say absolutely, let's get something together. Whether it happens or not, who knows? But so that's where I kind of get some of the vibes of inspiration. It's like, all right, here are some possibilities to do stuff. And it, you know, sometimes it'll lead to something, other times it don't. And then sometimes it'll lead to running into them at the next con and going, hey, what about that thing we talked about? Can we possibly do it? And sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. It's just that's the main thing I find, where, you know, I get inspiration sometimes just being at the con, seeing what people are putting out, what they're doing, and then see something that was like, oh, I didn't think about something like that. Is there a way to either do it also or do it better? Or sometimes you'll see something and go, oh, I had that idea. I could see how that may not work. And then I'm talking about like also things like displaying stuff, you know, that type of things as well, or an idea of like how to display your booth, your banners. What do you really see of a banner when you're the one walking down the aisle and looking? Did any of them catch my eye and stuff like that? So that's the other thing that I do to get inspired, and then see who's displaying at the con. You know, that's the other thing too, is that, all right, you know, sometimes you see Geico is at a con, and it's like, okay, they're just selling whatever space they're selling. So does that also mean that they not have enough people to sell books at that con, that they go looking for something else to fill up that spot? Maybe not necessarily like New York Comic Con, but other places too, is, you know, to get ideas about that as well.
One of the fishing con that I went to, which if you're ever in Michigan, and Tom, if you are a big fishing guy, the fishing convention in Novi had that as well. And I've seen that too at other comic book conventions. I always also just like to think too that, hey, maybe if it was like a franchise thing with the insurance, the guy was like, hey, I own this. I could like go to this convention for free and like set up a booth here and buy some comics and everything, because I'm not against that. So, but I get what you're saying. Like I do, but I
think New York Comic Con, they had a Ryobi, the tool manufacturer. Ryobi.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had like a big display there, and I'm like, well, if you think about it, at some point, everybody needs a hand drill, right?
I mean, you're not wrong though. Like, I mean, if somebody's there, like, hey, I'm selling towels or something. Well, everybody needs to tell at one point. Like, it's just, it's not wrong. It's just weird.
Right.
Like, so.
So Chad, what inspired you, sir?
Great. I actually do have an answer, and he's gonna beat me up.
Oh, it's me.
It is Tom. Actually, it was funny because that was my other answer. No, it is too. So yes, I will agree. Tom has been a big inspiration for me this year. He has worked his absolute ass off with Big Dog Inc. Every single time I look, he's always doing something new. Conventions, Kickstarters, writing new material. Him and I have bonded on Chris's show with like movies and comics, and he always calls me out when I have terrible taste. It's always in good fun. But like it's like that fun friendship that we have. Plus we're also Michigan based. We're both in Michigan. So it's really just nice to have somebody here who's also in the arts as well in the comic book field. And I learn a lot from him. But also John Westhoff has been a huge influence on me as well. And he's going to beat me up. Not you, Tom, because I know I could take you into fight, you and your cat ears. But no, John Westhoff, I have watched him every time going to conventions. He made his own convention and failed. And that guy still fucking trucks along, making his part-time comics brand. Like that guy, I'm just like, you know what? I want to be like that. I want to be like him. I want to be like Tom. I just want to do my own thing with my own little company, pick up people, work with different people, maybe do some distribution on the side. But I just want to go at it all in with my comic book stuff. Because for years and years and years, I've just been trying to play it safe with, trying to work with Marcosia, which I work with Blue Lullaby. But I've been trying to get into Dynamite and all these other big companies. But I'm like, you know what? These guys are doing their own shit with their own stuff. That's been my biggest inspiration. Now, comic book wise, Creature Commandos with James Gunn has said necrophiliac is cool, and I stand behind it. No, I'm just fucking it. Comic book wise, though, just truth be told, I haven't read a lot this year. Just like art, I think just mostly writers and creators. Who I've been most. God damn it, John! Why are you? So those guys have definitely been the biggest inspiration for me this year. Just go out, do their own fucking thing. I just said that, you fucking ass.
No, he told I was first, John.
Oh,
he said I was first.
That is true. I did say you were first, but that would have been too easy. So, Plus, Tom's great because he loves aquatic stuff too. So it's like I love aquatics. It's like it's there. Shark stuff.
There you go. Someday you'll get the shark in there. All right, cool.
I have a goblin shark. In Set the Hook #2, I have a goblin shark. Which nobody has done a goddamn variant cover at all of that guy, and it makes me so mad. Everybody's been focusing on the strip club.
That's on my list, John. You can't see it. It's too bright. But there it is. I hate when Tom is right. It's right there. It's right on my list.
That's on his list. That's his t-shirt. That's your t-shirt list?
That's my t-shirt list. Yeah.
Here you go. Nice. Yeah. What's funny is the thing that inspired me this year was about a creator who passed away a few years ago not a few years ago, it was 2020. Richard Corbin. Dark Horse is in the process of reprinting all of his work, right? And one of the things that I found incredible was that he had an entire graphic novel done before he passed that was never released. And he was 80 years old.
Richard
Corbin.
Richard Corbin.
Oh, Corbin. I'm sorry. I thought you said.
Yeah.
Sorry. So.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So, that the fact that he worked to the end, right? I find that inspiring. That he worked, that he was just like, I'm comics, man, and I'm going out doing comics, and he did it all the way to the end. And the only reason, and the thing, what's funny is a lot of this work has never been reprinted because he didn't care. He was like, Dark Horse would ask you want us to reprint it? No. You know, is it no? I got new stuff I'm putting out, and that's what mattered to him. His new stuff. And if you look over the last before he passed away, like those last 10 years, he put out a lot of stuff. You know, and the fact that they're putting out this stuff and the new graphic novels coming out was I think the middle of the next year from Dark Horse. So I find that inspiring. You know, that my man worked all the way to the end. You know,
Yeah, that was like Bernie Wrightson. He died trying to finish the Frankenstein book.
Yeah. You know, I mean, and that's that's if you're gonna go out, you know,
Which
go out.
Frankenstein book?
Steve Niles. Steve Niles wrote it, and so he did like the first 4 issues, and then he passed, and then he had handpicked Kelly Jones to finish the book if he couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
So Kelly Jones took all the roughs, the layouts and stuff, and finished it. Did the final issue.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Niles died?
No, Bernie Wrightson died.
Bernie
Wrightson died. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I my entire brain is like sorry, continue. Ignore me.
It's in the fish tank. It's in the fish tank.
Listen,
Yes,
man,
it is in the fish tank right now.
we're gonna hook it up some more. Here you go. So, Chad, talk to me. What's Set the Hook number 2 about?
What isn't it about? Oh, okay. So Set the Hook number 2 is this book here is the investigation side of what Otis does as his job of being a ex-fisherman detective. It's him and his partner Ginger. They go to a fish strip club to find a lead on the pike that murdered Otis's father. And yes, when I say fish strip club, I mean jellyfish boobies and vampire squid boobies and clam smoking cigar strip club. It is the wettest, wildest thing you'll ever see. But that's what this. What's up?
You have a puffer fish stripper that like can enlarge her breasts. You know.
God, that's a really good idea. I have a walrus named Wilma Wobble-Tits.
There you go.
But damn,
that works.
but no, I like that. I like the man. I should have asked you about that. That's actually pretty good.
I worked in porn for a long time, so
I know you did. You did.
Fish. Do you have a variant cover that's just like green algae pattern and have like the cleaner fish like writing a message in the algae, like the pike did it, or fuck off, or just something like he eats the algae into the words?
God, I should just talk to you guys about marketing. No, I like everybody that I hired for cover art was like, they focus on the strip club, so we're gonna get a lot of that, which is fine. But I'm like, guys, we had a Steamboat Willie cover that you guys could have nailed, but you didn't do that. But yeah, so this one is just the investigation side of our crime detective story. There's not too much action in it, except towards the end, but it is just the gathering information side of this book. So if you're into these supernatural style noirs, if you like like John Constantine stuff, especially older John Constantine, like I'm talking, why can't I remember his goddamn name? Peter Milligan. Or Carrie. Sorry, help me out. What's his name? The guy who wrote anyway. So old style John Constantine, you will really like this book. So I'm really excited. We launch. What, JD?
Did you just say John Milligan?
No, Peter Milligan.
Peter Milligan. That's a name nobody knows.
Peter Milligan.
Yeah, that's a name nobody knows. I mean, maybe among us, but the general audience is not going to know who Peter Milligan is.
Oh,
he's done a lot of stuff. I mean, you know,
he's done a
Vertigo guy.
If you're specifically in that, but that's a lot of niche stuff there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I like Peter. Yes, I like Peter Milligan.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm just like, wow, that's a name that I don't think I've ever heard invoked on any show ever. Is Peter Milligan?
Okay, that I can accept.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
that I can accept. But Warren Ellis was one of the writers on the series. Garth Ennis.
Yeah.
Garth Ennis was one. Simon Bisley was the artist towards the end.
Right.
Of that one, and that was actually really good too.
Yeah.
Why can't I remember his freaking name? Anyway, but yeah, so that's what this one launch is. February 6th is what I have planned.
Cool.
It might be a little bit earlier because I am ahead of schedule. So I was planning on everything being there, but everybody's turned in all of their stuff, so it might be a little bit sooner. Like a couple of days, not like
There you go,
Yeah,
Chad.
me too.
Jamie Delineo.
Yes, Jamie. Okay, yeah. Yeah,
There you
Jamie Delaney.
Thank you,
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So anyway, so that's what that one's about. So stay tuned. Check it out.
All right. Cool. Very nice. Looking good.
Mhm.
I'm gonna throw up my thing real quick. Here we go. Magi's Grace. Talking about fish, we have Magi and Grace. Vampires are invading Innsmouth. So that's the fish people from the H.P. Lovecraft, legend, lore, whatever. And the fish gods are not happy, and they sent in these two, Magi and Grace, to take out the vamps. And
The fish god?
The
Yeah.
fish gods aren't happy. I'm going to make that a shirt too.
there you go.
Why have we not crossed over with this?
It's technically it's Dagon. Dagon is the deity that they worship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that he's a fish god. So there you go. But it's nuts. C did a great job, and it's funny. I was lettering this thing today, and like it's just like nonstop action from cover to cover. It's just like crazy. I was just like, oh, this goes by really fast, and I'm just like, oh, all right, that's good. So it's like from end to end. But on top of that, we have some really cool looking covers. We have C's cover, which looks great. We have Pablo Verdugo Munoz did a fantastic cover. Lena Dye, she always knocks it out the park for us. LC Freitas, listen, if you like butts, LC is your man. That's all I have to say. Douglas Apreciado Manzini is a guy I found on DeviantArt doing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons art, and I was just like, okay. Max.
This guy's okay.
Well, no, it was okay. Not okay. I like his stuff a lot, but it was just like I was like, could he do bad girl work, right? Instead of just doing Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And then this is Yana, someone who I've been looking at for years. I just like her stuff. It's like old school anime, 90s. And then we have more pages. So there you go. So go buy some books, Dan. There you go. That's enough of that.
Also, it has C. Michael Lanning's art, who
Buy some
also
books,
does.
damn it. That's another shirt.
I wanted to also say too that C. Michael Lanning does the art for that, and he does the main cover of Set the Hook #2. He actually does all the main covers for Set the Hook. So, in fact, he is mostly my main cover artist. So,
yes. C. Michael Lanning is the main artist. I thought I said that at the beginning, but yeah. So, and what's really good is he's actually finished issues 3 and 4, so the series is complete. It's got to get those colored and lettered, and then that'll be that. So All right, Tom, you got a question? Come on, help me out here.
Nope.
No. All right.
Nope.
Forget you.
Nope.
Chad, you got anything?
Nope.
No. That's good. It's a good thing I got some in front of me.
Chad's staring into the 5th dimension right now.
Yeah, I know. No. Here's something for all you guys, because I know this will affect Tom, Chad. I don't know so much Wilson, but covers, right? I hire cover artists. Tom, you hire cover artists. Chad, you hire cover artists. Wilson, I'm sure you hire them every now and again, and you do them yourself. So
yes.
So do you prefer pose art or story art?
I personally enjoy story art. I'm old school in the sense of I want to be able to look at a cover and get an idea what the story is about. But I also understand that there are some cases where I think it really depends on who I'm hiring. Now, I've been in the unique position of having been working at Marvel for a number of years. When I ask somebody for a cover, I usually just give them the freedom, here are the parameters of the characters. If you want to do something, here are some of the monsters, depending on the title. I usually collected a bunch of covers from Team Kaiju, which was my Cyborgs versus Monster book. And I kind of developed that for the purpose of getting artwork done for it. Because it used to be I would just buy general artwork from artists. And I did run into the not problem, but I did run into the fact that they didn't want to sell me the artwork. They would rather give it to me. Not a problem to have, mind you, but the position that I was in, I used to do art returns. I would return the original artwork back to the artist after the books got printed. I did not want them to feel like they had to give me the artwork for them to continue getting their artwork back, because Marvel had a history of bad junk for all the time they existed of giving artwork back.
Right.
I did not want to fall into that category of, because a lot of the people who did art returns did, give me this artwork and I'll make sure you'll get this page, that page, or whatever. So when I've developed my IP, I was like, oh, do a pinup or a cover for my character. So and then I would offer money for that, and then they would still say, no, we'll give it to you. So fine. So I collected a whole lot, and they mostly end up being, pinups, not really story stuff. Because I did give monster ideas, and I did go, and a few did. Would be one. They would usually pick one of the characters out of the team of 5 characters, and then have that one character fighting a different monster. So I got to get some really good artwork from artists that way, and I've been kind of using those as alternate covers. Now, buying covers, for some people, I would ask, oh, okay, it will be for this particular issue. This is the stuff that's going on in it. But again, a lot of times, because I know that this is going to be an alternate cover, I usually let them decide what it's going to be. There's been a few where I said, okay, this is the story points that we need to have on this cover, and I would get it. I tend to just I like to lean towards that story point, but I completely understand why something that's generic can go, all right, we can now slap this on everything else, because it is generic enough that we could use it as an alternate cover, a poster, or whatever other chachi freebie things that we're planning to create down the line. So for me, I tend to lean more story, but I understand that, some people can't even tell a story. They could just do a really good pinup.
Right. This is true. This is very true. Chad, what are your thoughts?
Different, like when it comes to the cover, should it tell the story versus what's in it?
Right. Whether you just have a pinup, or do you want a something on the cover that's going to tell a story, that's actually from the comic book, like it's telling you something of the comic?
That's a loaded question at this point, but to be totally fair with you, with Wilson's point, truthfully, I think that the cover should tell the story. And I've noticed that a lot with like the different cover artists that I've hired, is that they always do the pinup type version thing, but they don't really tell the story. But I like a cover, and pinup covers are fine. Like I think that they're great for variant covers, but I think you do need that variety of, this is what the story is about. Like you get an idea for it. Like when I look at I Hate Fairyland's cover by Scotty Young, it's this girl standing there with an axe, and like all these fairy tale creatures are like below her. And I understand that now, is it's like, okay, it's about this murderous, woman going on a rampage in I Hate Fairyland. Like I can develop an idea of what that story is. But I think it just depends on what you're looking at. I mean, there are a lot of people who are out there that do just do the pinup covers. But I do think that there should be a variety. And I think I don't want to use Marvel and DC as an example, but I will. Like they do have a pretty good variety of variant covers. At least back in the day when they had like the animal variants and they had like the baby variants and all that, and you could develop the story. Now I don't really know what type of variant covers.
Well, I mean, you have one book and you put out 50 covers. You're gonna figure at least a couple of them are gonna tell you something about the story.
Right. Exactly. Yes. So I think at least like 1 or 2 maybe for variant covers should be, but I think that the main cover should tell the story. And I actually did learn with trying to use Tim Spavero's cover with the first issue, and people didn't get it, and that's fine. So I ended up having to change the cover. to see Michael Landings.
Not a bad choice.
No, not at all, because I like his cover work.
Yeah.
So,
All right, cool. Tom, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it depends on who you're trying to sell it to. That's the thing. You have to understand that there are multiple buyer bases within the world of comic books. There are people who just buy the one cover because they just want to read it. There are people who buy the one cover and then buy a variant because they like an artist or something, but there are art collectors. I mean, comic books at the higher levels of IP are supported by art above anything else. Before anything else, people will be like, oh, who did that cover? That's a great cover. And they will collect covers just because of who's on it. Jessica Campbell did a new Wonder Woman cover. Yay. Like, give me that. Like, they don't even care what's on the inside. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. So you just have to understand who your market is and who you're trying to market to. In our case, we always have an A cover, which has like the logo and the trade dress and, some semblance of, what you're getting within the book, because we're in our brain, we're like, we're selling that to the readers. The readers need to know what the book is. Here's the book. Here's the title. Here's the number. Here's, what's happening. But then there's the art collectors who are like, oh man, I love Elias Chitsaudis. I love Nia Rufino. I love whatever. So those can be whatever you want them to be. They can be pinup covers. They can even in a pinup cover though, it can still attach to a story point if you want it to. But because the people who are buying it are only there for that art, for that character, you use that as a like Wilson just said, you use that as a character reference point. Like, hey, here's Critter, and here's the A cover and the logo, and she's fighting a character, but here's 5 other covers with 5 other characters that, represent the world that she exists in. And you use those as sort of like presentation pieces. So it's good for the cover. You can also make a print. You can put it on a banner. You can, do other things with it, trading cards or whatever. So they're like presentation pieces in addition to being, just the cover as its, its basic use. But yeah, it all just depends on who you think you're selling to. Some products can't sell variant covers because the people buying that book only care about the readership. They just like, oh, I just want to read it. I don't care about any of this other stuff. But then you have folks like Carissa, who has learned that if you put somebody like an Ivan Tao or oh my God, who's the guy that just did her recent one?
Wasn't Ivan Tao just did it?
Yeah, but she's got the new guy. There's another new guy. Derek Chu. You get a guy like Derek Chu, who these guys have big audiences and they do the sexy girls that will attract a new audience solely because of those covers. Now they may not read the book, but does it matter to you as a retailer of your product why someone buys the book? No, you only want them to buy the book. If they're happy with the cover and they're going to put it, in a grading capsule and never look at the insides, you got their $25. Let them do whatever they want with it. And you've attracted that audience to your book.
Somebody asked me once, like, hey, how do you feel if somebody bought your book and then threw it in the garbage? And I literally looked right at them and said, well, I already got their money. So it's like whatever they do with it now is like.
The answer is it's a bummer because I won't get their next $3. But in that particular scenario of
Comic Con exchange,
I did my job. They gave me the money for the job, and that at that point, if they want to roll a doobie with it, that's their that's their prerogative.
And if you roll a doobie with my book, please send me a video. I'd be cool with that.
Hey, I one time went looking to see, do they print on hemp paper? Just to use that as the read the book. If you didn't like it, you could always roll it up and just smoke with it.
Yeah. All right.
That would be actually, because I'm like a fan of the newspaper print. I like that old Vertigo, like the newspaper print that they make, but hemp paper would be awesome. Be like, yeah, and if it's taking up space, you could just smoke it. Get penny for your souls and set the hook, and you're
I don't recommend it because who knows what's in the ink, but
But
the paper itself is all right.
right. But you're a druggie, so it's not. I'm not a doctor. Oh yeah, speaking of Doobie, he's doing the art for Bark in the Water, which is about the dog in the salmon suit. Little shit. So, but he is, and he also has a variant cover for issue 1 and then a variant cover for issue 3 coming up. So, because I couldn't afford him for issue 2. So.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Right.
This would be,
raise some money.
Yeah.
There you go. That's all. I don't know. I you know, it's funny. I prefer story covers, but I do feel there's a space where, you know, a pinup can hit the story as well. You know what I mean? Whereas, like, you know what? You know, it's funny. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at one that Matthew did years ago. And this is Dreamweavers number 2, and this was done in '93, right? So Wilson went to school with Matt. So here's Magique, character from the book, looking all sexy and hot on the cover, but yet we have a bunch of the villains around. We have the Dreamweavers, you know, unconscious on the bottom and on the side, looking all weird and crazy, and it functions, you know, in both spaces. You know what I mean? So I do think there's a space where both things can happen. Although, listen, there's nothing wrong with pinup covers. Lord knows I got enough of them, and they look great. So, and I'm happy with them. So, but I do think there's a space where I think both function of just it being art, and it also serving the story can also be sometimes fit in there. But you sometimes got to think a little bit harder about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, you use an environment, you know, a significant environment. They're in the headquarters or, you know, whatever it happens to be. Doesn't all have to be just literally the pinup, you know,
yeah,
like that.
Like I have 2 of them where they're in the strip club.
Mhm.
It's like, that's where they go to.
Right.
So, but that's up. But nobody does the goblin shark. I'm very I was kind of I mean, I knew that when I did the strip club, fish strip club, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know where this is going. But a part of me really did want a variant cover with the goblin shark.
You could have told somebody.
Yeah,
I did.
Oh,
That's my friend. I did. I did. There was a full conversation about it, and I'm like, fine, I give up. Never mind. They're like, it's too hard. I'm like, fine. Fine. I don't care. You're a buddy of mine, and at this point, I don't care. So, give me the damn cover. I guess goblin sharks aren't sexy enough for people, but jellyfish are. So I don't fucking know what people's fetishes are anymore. So,
all right. So I was on with Tom last night. We were talking, right? We were talking about our various techniques as far as like how we write scripts, and so here's the question: do you prefer writing scene by scene or panel by panel? Right? How do you break down a shot for your artists, right? So how do you do it? You know. So Wilson, if you're handing off a piece off to an artist, how you breaking it down for them? Are you doing panel by panel? You just giving them scene descriptions? You worked at Marvel, so you do it Marvel style, you know?
Yeah, we tend to do our books because Eric is the one that does most of the writing.
Right.
So we do it kind of like the Marvel style. We give a generic outline of the story. What are the things that we want to hit? And it really depends on who we're sending the script to as well. So we've hired different artists who have different disciplines, you know, people who are just starting out in the industry to people who's been working there for a number of years. The reason why I have Eric write, because I tend to think as an artist, I did a whole story where 22 pages of the character putting on her costume, thinking, why do I do this? Eric was able to talk me into, you know, you could do that same thing in 2 pages. So that's why Eric's the writer. So it's like sometimes I get caught into the minutia of like, this would be cool, but, you know, do I really want to draw that stuff kind of a thing? Right. So now we mainly do like a generic outline of what we want to hit as it going along. But we also tailor the script to the artist as well. Because I've had an artist who I need every panel on the page, what's going on the page, and stuff like that. So we pretty much have been to the point where when we do hire artists, most of the time, at least the penciler is someone who's done the work in the industry already, done work before. Because some of the newer guys that we've tried, we started with pinups. We've had like even short stories that were like 3 or 4 pages, and the person just wasn't getting it, so they needed something more to a a heavily scripted page, and in some cases maybe even a little bit of dialogue to understand who's talking and why they're saying these things. Where we've had other artists where I told them that we need a pinup that basically has 3 panels in it, not pinup, sorry, a story page that has 3 panels in it. We want to hit these things on it, and we're going to use that page as advertisement. That here, instead of just giving you a pinup or whatever, we actually gave you 3 panels of story to make the reader hopefully go, oh, I want to read the rest of it. But it's generic enough that if you don't find a story, or if you've never seen that ad, it's not necessarily missing from the actual comic book page itself. But it's something like, this would have been in the page. This would have been in the book like 15 minutes earlier if you had opened up the book and it was 15 minutes before this particular scene, the way it opened up. So we've done things like that. But Eric prefers, when he's writing, he wants to leave it up to the artist to really put what they want into it. And there have been times where I've seen in his script, the next 3 pages is a fight scene, but it's going through this hospital, and we have to hit these certain points. That we got to get to that elevator. The elevator will be busted because of something that happened previously. So you're not going down the elevator, you're going down the shaft. Stuff like that gets put into the storyline beforehand, and that's done for the script itself.
That's interesting. Because I don't work anything like that, but okay. That's interesting. All right. Chad, what are your thoughts? What do you do? I'm saving time for last. We had this conversation yesterday.
No, I'm great. No, actually, it's funny you bring that up because Wilson was the most technical person I've ever heard talking, and that just hurt my brain. But anyway, so it's funny you guys were talking about that, because usually what I do when I was writing Set the Hook and even Blue Lullaby is I went panel by panel. And what I did is I left it up to the artist to figure out and say, hey, Chad, you don't need like 4 you don't need 6 panels like to put on somebody's costume, or 5 pages. I can do this in 2 pages. Like, let me show you. Or even with having an editor, which is also very important. But when it comes right down to it, I prefer working panel by panel, because visually I'm looking at it like a frame by frame of a movie. So what I do is I go, okay, well, when they're grabbing a glass, they reach out their hands, they get closer to it, and then they grab the glass, and then they pull it back. But I also try to think of, and this is going to get really how my mind works, is it's which parts can I clean up to just show that movement. So I prefer panel by panel. However, though, I did try this year, especially with Jason Doobie, who's doing Bark in the Water, I did try the general outline scripting of just what is on the page and then have them hit it. My problem that I ran into is that some editors, when I give that to them, they don't work that well with it. Because Wells did with Bark in the Water. He said, I prefer the panel by panel. And I'm like, I do as well, but I wanted to try this style. So I think it depends on who I'm working with. But when it comes to what I've learned now, it's just I'm going to continue writing panel by panel, because that's how I'm more comfortable with, because I'm trying to play it out as a movie in my head and then cleaning up what big bullet points can I hit, and then everything else is just in between the panels. So that's kind of what I've been learning, and that's why Bark in the Water I'm hoping is going to be really good, but
it's trash.
So,
it's trash.
I know it's It's more my schlock piece, and I'm very happy about it. It's just about a little dog fighting a big mech. Like, it's Attack on Titan. So, I mean, it's great. It's also based on my dog, so I mean,
What type of dog?
a Chihuahua.
Oh, okay.
It's a Chihuahua in a salmon suit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right.
But yeah, so that's my biggest. What I favor now is panel by panel. I think is my biggest go-to. Which I'm going to continue doing.
Tom, to continue the conversation yesterday.
Yeah, I'll never understand a writer not writing what they want, like specifically, right? So you're the writer and you're like the director, right? And then you can treat the artist as like the cinematographer for sure, but you still are telling the cinematographer what you want in that shot. Now they may have some artistic, like, well, what if we turn the camera or the angle or the thing or, whatever. Yes, but I want it like that. So everything for me has always been page 1, panel 1, this, panel 2, this, panel 3, this. I don't necessarily specify like how, like rectangle, circle, whatever. Like if I know something needs to be bigger, I'll tell them like, this is the large panel. This is the key piece of the page. Like make this one big or whatever. Plus with all the dialogue, because I do all the dialogue, they know how much space to leave, in each panel for what is necessary to be there. I don't want them to be guessing on any of that kind of stuff. And in fact, if they know that a panel is going to be like, if you're looking at us, right, and you know that there's going to be like a word balloon, like right here, he doesn't have to draw all this shit in the background because he knows there's going to be a balloon right over it. So he can actually save time in what he's doing. If he knows that there's going to be elements that are covered up, he can artistically, like, we'll just put shadow so that we don't even need to worry about it. And he doesn't have to draw the walls and the windows and all that kind of crap. JB Neto drives me crazy with that because he's the guy I've been working with for 15 years. And every time we get a panel like that, I fully expect him to kind of just like, okay, we're going to draw this side, but we're going to leave this side looser. But this guy draws every fucking line and everywhere. And I'm just like, God damn. Like, I mean, it looks great. I can't complain. It looks awesome, but it's all covered up, man. Like there was one shot where we had like a bookshelf behind this girl. And it was mostly covered by the balloon, but he drew not only every book on the bookshelf, he wrote titles on the spines. And, like, I'm just like, no one's going to see this.
That's not true at all. You can release them as like pages for like example pages and everything and just show how cool the guy is. But to your point though, like
100% agree. But but when you're talking about deadlines and stuff, like sometimes there's a limit to that. And if you have a cheat, that would be where you cheat a little bit, so again, I'm not, as long as he hits deadlines, I'm not concerned. But particularly within people that do digital art now, because it's not like they can sell the original art. Like in the old day, you would have the page and it would have all that detail and it'd be like, oh shit, sell that page. But now it's all digital. There's no pages to sell. So, whatever. But yeah, no, I have never come across an artist who has been like, oh, this is too much. Like, why is there so much why is there so much in your script? It's always been like, oh, I get it. But I've also told them, like, so again, you're the cinematographer. So if you're going through a script and you're like, well, there's 6 pages here or 6 panels here, but I think we can do it in 5 if we do it this way. I'm like, yeah, just tell me that, because then I can look at it and be like, I see what you're doing. But if I'm as the director, I'm like, well, no, we want this point like right here. Like we need this point. So we're going to leave it the way it is. But if it has happened on occasion where they're like, well, I think I can rejigger this stuff and I think it'll be better. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That looks better. So let's go that way. So I'm open to what they have to say, but I try and give them as much of the pieces of the puzzle as I can.
But I think it's also good, to Tom's point as well. I think you should give them every piece of the puzzle, but I also think that you should allow your artist to play around as well. Like, and I think that works with just like building relationships between your artist and writer, but also too, like, they also are a part of this, building this world and this story as well. So they see other things that writers can't see.
Right.
So it's like I love the whole like, hey, and I always tell people this, or like when I work with like Jason or Tim, I'm like, hey, if you see something that I don't, do it. You can even ask me if you're unsure, but do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine. Like, worst case scenario, I tell you, hey, no, well, we're just gonna edit that a little bit. But like, come on, these people, the artists also want to have fun too, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Like artists want to have fun.
Yeah, I think as long as you're open as a sort of an art director to their thought process, I think you're fine.
Right. Absolutely.
That's they feel like they're putting something into it of their own, and that's great.
Right, because that also helps too with like them also talking about the book as well. Like, hey, these people are really easy to work with. I also got to develop this section here, like with this story, and I'm like, hell yeah, they did. Do I remember that? No, because talking about the step-by-steps of the process is incredibly difficult to keep up with. But they worked on it, and it builds that passion for that project as well, I think. So
yeah, I mean, over the years, I worked in a similar fashion to Tom, but the only time I worked that way is when I was actually working for editors, right? So when I worked at Central Park Media, Pioneer, Pianime, when I worked at those places, that's when I did page breakdown, panel breakdown, that sort of thing. And I told Tom it was funny because I was working with Matt, right? And Matthew, he would take a story that I would break down to 24 pages.
Matt who?
Matthew Lunsford. He was he's actually the guy who drew that, and he drew Dreamweavers. He did Tenchi Muyo. He did La Blue Girl. He did a bunch of stuff, and we worked together for a bunch of years. And Matt would, I think, just laugh at my script and then break it down however you want to break it down. So, I would hand in a 24-page script. He would come back with a 32-page comic. And he'd give it to the editors, and then they'd have. And I told Tom, it says they have to pay me for the extra 8 pages. So that was always a good thing. But typically now the way I write is I write a complete script, but I don't do any breakdowns. I don't do page by page. I don't do panel by panel, but I do scene by scene. I put in all the dialogue. I put in, if I have any thought balloons, captions, narration, all that stuff. All of it goes in, and it's all in order. And I let the artist break it down, right? Thankfully, I work with artists, especially Jade, where she's been doing it so long. Like, she doesn't even send me. She doesn't even send me page layouts anymore. She just sends me finished pages.
You can book Jade.
What?
You're able to book like Jade Lanning?
No, not Jade Lanning. Jade Gonzalez.
Oh, Gonzalez. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, that's the artist that I've been working with on Oswald for about.
Okay.
Yeah. So she can she just interprets the script. At the beginning, I'll hand her the script. She'll read it. She'll ask me, like, I'll end up with a sheet full of questions. I'll answer all the questions, and that's it. And I just get finished pages after that. She doesn't even bother with layouts or anything. And I'm telling you, in probably 1,500 pages that we've done together, I've maybe had to have her do 8 changes in all that time. Because it was like, and it was little things. It was like, all right, you need to add this. You forgot this. You forgot that. And that was basically it. So I got very lucky with her because she knows what she's doing. If you're working with an artist who knows what they're doing, but I have worked with other artists where they were like, oh, can you break it down page by page? And I've done that as well, and it's not an issue.
I've worked with artists as well who will just, and I've encouraged this, and they don't budge, is where I say, listen, when something is on the page, if you have a creative onset, like if you have a creative idea, just fucking do it. You don't have to go page by page or panel by panel. And I've worked with artists like that, and it's one of the reasons why I dropped some of them, because I'm like, bro, like, I'll pay for, like, it doesn't even matter about the financial situation of it, but I'm just saying, like, I'll look at their stuff and I'll be like, well, like, do you have anything else? Like, just looks kind of flat. But anyway.
But when you say flat, are you talking about the layout is flat? They're not using any perspective. Is it a matter?
Yeah, like,
right.
they're just looking at exactly what I wrote on the page.
Right.
Like, they're talking to this person. It's just this flat perspective of them directly talking to this one person, and I'm like,
Listen, man, get him How to Draw Comics the Marvel way.
and then I'm like, hey, have you ever read Scott McCloud's Understanding?
Even beyond that, I would tell them go get How to Draw Comics the Marvel way, because you'll see in there where John Buscema explains just that, where he'll show you the two people talking like this, and he's like, well, you can turn it this way, have this guy hold over this person, and you know what I mean. And there's certain inflections, and that's one of the things I do with my scripts is I give inflection. So if I say, this person's talking and they're smiling, this person is talking and they look upset, they look angry, so on and so forth, because I find that's important. Because we went through the 90s where everybody was just with the teeth together, gnashing, and they were just like, ugh.
Everybody was weirded out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that right.
Right. And hey, how's it going?
Right, and everybody's talking through gritted teeth, right? It's ridiculous. So yeah, it's better to have those types of those types of
and shadowing too works with that too. Like and I feel like when you're looking at a panel perspective, it's a camera angle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is showing what dramatic pose. And I'm not good at movie jargon, but it's like it's when you're looking at this character when they're doing like this deep dark depression, you might want to do more shadowing when they're talking to make it look sadder when they're talking to this person, or like the whole scene is bright and colorful when they're happy. Like that stuff's important.
Well, what's funny though is that, like, I find, and Wilson, tell me if you agree with this or not, is that a lot of what I've seen today is a lot of open line, right? Not a lot of spotting blacks, a lot of artists, because they're relying on the colorists to make up for that difference. You know what I mean? Would you agree with that?
I haven't looked for artists in a while,
Mm-hmm.
so I haven't looked at portfolios. I do see occasionally where there are stuff like that missing in it, but I would say that the books that I've done have been very traditional in the sense of even the creation of the books. Mm-hmm. I do have one guy that draws everything on the computer, but he's spotting the blacks. He's using, he's still using all the techniques. So his storytelling is solid. He's not relying on the colorist, but I understand what you mean, because there have been plenty of times where, as a colorist, that I would get pages and go, "Is this finished?" Because it doesn't seem to be finished. Like, I don't like working over pencil pages. They should be inked. I feel like if it's over pencils, it's not finished. And I wasn't hired to be an inker. As a colorist, I kind of need the inks, because you could hide a lot of stuff behind the inks. When the inks are not there, I put a stop to that by easily going, oh, this is not finished artwork. If you want me to do inks, I'm going to have to charge you not only for coloring, but for inks as well. Because, you took a page that would normally take maybe 4 or 5 hours, and you just added 4 more hours to it. Right. And the art doesn't need that much work on it. So, in that respect, I would say that's what I've seen. But usually everyone else that I've worked with will give me something that is finished, or at least passable as finished, to just go from there.
All right, cool. Tom, you got any thoughts on that? Do you see that happening?
To a degree, but that's to a degree, this is the world that we live in. The color is almost equal to the lines now, because if you have shitty colors on good lines, everything looks shitty.
Yeah.
So there's a sort of an expectation of color doing some of the lifting for the art, and some people, their style is just simply their style is open versus Jim Lee's liney cross-hatching stuff. Some people just have that open sort of blocky style. We work with artists that are kind of all over the place. Normally when you have like more open stuff, it's more of like, it tends to be more of like an animated feel. So you get a color style that goes with that. So it's not like you're going to go hyper render something that's just like wide open stuff. It's going to be more animation style, more cell shading and cell coloring, things like that, to kind of match with the art. But it's all just whatever. I mean, you should know what the art. If you hired the artist, you know what they do, and at that point, you know what sort of colors you should be putting on top of it.
You would hope.
Yeah. And and then you just go from there. I mean, I've never had a problem with all of the art styles that we've had come through. I've never had a problem to be like, oh shit, I don't know who to give this to. It's like, nope, I know that goes over there, that goes over there, that goes over there, and everything's fine.
All right, cool. Chad, what do you think? You're not thinking.
No, I am thinking. I'm sorry. Like this whole section is kind of newer to me. I think when it comes to it, it also depends on what type of art style you're looking for as well. And to Tom's point, it's when you look at this colorist or you look at this artist, you know where you're getting into. Like if you're looking at Mark Schultz, like Xenozoic, that's going to be very heavy inking. So the colorist could be very minimal. But when you're looking at something like, Black Hammer by Dean Orstom, it's going to be more open color. The color is more of what you're looking at. So it just depends on what artist you're looking at. And I think I think you need to pick that. Like that is your job to it. Now, granted, though, I do like Wilson's idea of saying, hey, this isn't completed. Because there are some artists who will just say, yeah, this is done. And they'll use the fill bucket on Photoshop and they'll fill that in and say it's colored. Then I'm not calling anybody out particularly. That's just a general example.
Go ahead, call them out. Who is it?
No, I'm not. For sure. No, but or you look at Scotty Young as a very good example of this when it comes to he does very light ink.
Don't say anything bad about Sky's a nice guy.
No, I know. I love Scotty. I'm a fan of his. I like it. Listen, I Hate Fairyland is great. I brought it up a little bit ago as an example.
Yeah, but the colors in that aren't like hyper rendered.
Right.
No, they're not. But and his ink style is very simple as well. So that's what I'm talking about. Is like I guess it just depends, on who you're looking at. So I don't have a very heavy take on between Tom and Wilson on that opinion. So
that's fair enough. That's fair enough. All right, cool. All right, gentlemen, look, we made it to hour 2.
Hell yeah.
We made it. So thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Tom, please let everybody know where they can find you and your work, sir.
BigDogInc.com. That's our website. We're on all of the socials. TikTok's already on my phone, so if it gets banned, have no fear. I'm still on TikTok. I will have it. If someone wants to buy my phone for $3,000 because TikTok is on it, we can talk about that too. But
wait, shit, gotta download TikTok.
Quick, everybody download TikTok.
Download TikTok.
Oh, they ran.
So but we're on all the socials. We do mostly Facebook stuff. That's where kind of everything starts, and then it filters out. We also do a Patreon. So if you like to kind of if you like the things that I say and you want to see the things that I do along with all the artists, we show all the stuff as it comes through to all of our Patreon folks first, and you get to watch how the soup is made. So patreon.com/BigDogInc if you want to do that.
Cool. Mr. Wilson, where can they find you and your work, sir?
You can catch me on the Drift anywhere on all social media with Ramos Comics. If you don't find me on the Ramos Comics, you could also find me on the Ramos Kaiju, Kaiju. That's just the longest one that oldest social media name, but been branding Ramos Comics mainly to sell stuff on my eBay page. So I sell my comics on eBay, and I also sell them directly from our website, section8comics.com. I can show you the image again. So that's the website that you can get our books, or as I mentioned, I also sell them on eBay. I'm looking into how to sell them on TikTok. What I did first is I bought a comic book from someone on TikTok that I know, and I'm waiting to see what that is like, how quickly it gets here and stuff like that, to get an idea. I'm not too thrilled with the idea of selling on TikTok, only because I believe as a seller, you don't get the information of who you're selling it to. So I think you just get a label that you print out and send it in. So
What
I'm
could
not,
go wrong?
so I'm not positive on that. So that's one of the only reasons why I haven't tried to sell on other platforms. But my books are also available on Poshmark and Macari, and and again, it's all under Ramos Comics on all the social media that currently exist.
All right, cool. Chad, where can they find you in your work, sir?
So currently, you can find me on Global Comics, where I have digital comics currently of Set the Hook #1, Sparkle Dog #1, and Clove Hitch by Chris Albright is currently on there as well. And just actually a couple of days, I'm launching the Rolling Squid Bones Square store, so you can buy physical copies of all those books as well, coming soon. So that's really cool. That's what I'm going to have at the beginning of the year too. You can find me on Blue Sky, Rolling Squid Bones, and also Casual Nerd Chad, which is my other one, and then also Facebook as well. So my social media presence is slowly growing, and Substack, which I do the Comic Book Brews, where it's just my whatever I am currently doing or working on, and game and movie and beer reviews. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Cool. So I'm JD Calderon. You can find me here most Sundays. I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to do a show next Sunday. I haven't decided yet.
Take the day.
You're
Good
doing
Lord,
it.
dude.
You're doing it.
Take the day or call me.
He's doing it. I'm going to be here too. So
I'll probably end up doing it.
I'm available too, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you know. But yeah. So currently on Kickstarter with Magi's Grace #2. So go check that out. YoswellChronicles.com, TallTalesOnline.com, and just remember, everybody, please check out the show notes. Check out those links. All those links are attached to these creators. All of them do great work. All of them deserve your support. So please click on those links, pick up some books, and just remember, read more indie comics, especially ours. Have a good night.
Wait, real quick, Wilson, are
Yes.
you aware that your Section 8 Comics is also the same name as the Garth Ennis team known as Section 8?
We are aware of that.
Okay, great. I love you because I love Section 8 as well. So anyway, that's all.
All right. Last minute thing. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Take care. Keep